Hey everyone, it's Andrew. So this is going to be a video doing a 1-year follow-up on my prior video discussing my minimalist shoes. If you've not seen that video yet, you can click the link above and take a look at it real quick. But in summary, in that video, I discussed my experience with barefoot or minimalist shoes. I discussed the Vibram 5 fingers, the Whitin Cross-Trainers, as well as 2 separate pairs of the Oranginer shoes, which you can find on Amazon. Given it's been about 1 year since that video, I wanted to do an overview and update on each of the 3 pairs of shoes that I discussed in that video. So what we'll do today is give you an update on my general impressions as well as the overall quality or build as they've held up over time. And so that's what we'll do in this video, and we'll get started now. Okay, so here are the 5 separate shoes that I discussed in my previous video. Real quick, from right to left, you have the original Vibram 5 fingers, you have the Vibram KSOs, you have the Whitin Cross-Trainers, the Oranginers in this black and gold or black and yellow version, and then you have the Oranginers in this orange and black version. When I first started switching from traditional running shoes over to barefoot or minimalist shoes, I started off with a pair of Nike Frees, and then I switched over to the Vibram 5 fingers. These were one of their original models, which was this design here. It was essentially this, like you had 5 separate web spaces or 5 separate areas for your toes, and then it had a strap that literally contoured to your foot with this kind of I guess like neoprene bottom or whatever you might want to call it. The benefit of these shoes was you had a lot of tactile feedback. You felt very connected to the ground. Essentially, it's one of the as minimalist shoes as you can get, and I would say this is a very barefoot shoe. The issue though is this sole was very thin and floppy. When you ran with this, if you hit like a rock or edge of something or something like that, you felt it immediately through your foot, and repeatedly sometimes I would damage my foot or bruise it just from stepping on something just randomly. And so you had to be very careful with where you put your foot, making sure you didn't cause damage. It really made you conscious of where you're running when you're running, and made you very efficient from that standpoint biomechanically. But because it was so thin, I didn't like it over time, and so after this pair started wearing through the sole, I think it was on this one, it started like ripping apart here. I ended up switching over to the Vibram KSOs, which was this version. As far as design, it's very similar construction. The only main difference was the bottom of the sole had more tread and a thicker material. So it was a step up where it provided adequate protection to your foot. So when you stepped on something jagged or something like that, it wouldn't hurt. Occasionally you would have issues, but it wasn't as painful, or it wasn't a repeated thing like you had with this. So you didn't have to be as conscious of where you were stepping and things like that. Or just randomly you wouldn't accidentally hit something, cause damage to your foot. However, with time, what I found was with the 5-finger web design and having your toes separate, one, it felt kind of unnatural where you felt like your toes were splayed out a little bit too much for comfort. Additionally, what I found was when I ran, repeatedly I would hit this pinky toe and kind of splay it out this way and jam it or injure it for some reason just randomly. Like if you hit a log or something like that, you'd hit that and cause injury to your foot. So after these started wearing out the tread, I decided to try a couple pairs of minimalist shoes. I tried like a couple pairs of Merrells, like the Trail Glove and things like that, but they didn't hold up and the quality wasn't that great. So even though I was spending like $130 at the time, I didn't really feel like I was getting my money's worth out of it. And so after my Merrells wore out, I decided to look on Amazon, and I came across these other 3 pairs of shoes that you see here. And so we have the Whitin Cross-Trainers and the 2 separate pairs of Oranginers. I bought these all at the same time about 2 years ago for about $30 to $40, and essentially I didn't know anything about them and just bought them kind of saying, hey, I'll try them out, and if they're $30, I save myself like $60 to $70 compared to a traditional minimalist shoe. So we'll discuss each of these individually and how they've held up over time. First is the Whitin Cross-Trainer. That's this one here. So the Whitin Cross-Trainer, real quick, is an elastic kind of Velcro design where it's got this drawstring on the top. You can tighten this up as much as you need, and then there's a piece of Velcro here that allows you to keep it snug and held down. The top it's not a 5-finger design. It's very similar as far as it's got individual areas for your toes, but it's cloth on the top and cloth across the sides here. And this shoe in general, I love. I really like it a lot. However, I don't use it for running. What I found was with time, as you can tell, it's kind of loosened up. And so as I wore it, the top loosened up, and I found my foot would just slide a little bit too much for running. And so I transitioned this out to more of using as like a cross-trainer or weightlifting shoe. So I would wear it at the gym, do squats, deadlift, cleans, things like that. And I absolutely love it for that purpose. It's great for that. It provides cushioning. The sole's very thick. It's got a very thick tread on it and provides a lot of support. And so I love it as a cross-trainer or weightlifting shoe. However, I just don't like it for running. One, because my foot would slide too much as it broke in. But two, if you look on this tread here, it's a little bit thicker, and so you don't have as much groundedness to the ground, and you don't have as much like bounciness in your run, where it's just not the same level of support compared to the alternative, which is like this gold and yellow version of the Orangineers, which I essentially gravitated to using for running. Additionally, what you'll find on the sole here is this area here is the same thickness, and actually the cushion, I'll pull it out, is very thick here. And so on the bottom of the foot here, it provides a little bit too much tread here. So if they cut this out and thinned it out here, I think you might have a little bit more comfort, but the whole bottom here is essentially flat, and it's like, it doesn't really serve like the purpose of a running shoe really well. And so I didn't use it for running. I used it for weightlifting. And for the past year, I used it to essentially like walk my dog the majority of the time. And so about 3 months ago, if you look at both of the shoes, on both shoes, the heel here essentially wore completely through. Exactly at the same time, both shoes in the exact same place. I am a heel striker, so when I walk, I guess I just hit my heel here, and it just wore through. The rest of the sole, there's on the left or right foot, there's a little bit of wear here, but the rest of the sole is pretty much intact. On the left foot here, it virtually looks brand new. So it wore through both of them on the heel here. And so since that happened, I stopped using these at all. I will buy them again and get replacements. However, since this wore through, I switched over to using this, the orange and black version of the Orangineers for walking my dog, just because I want to take advantage of these shoes because I have them, because they're just sitting around and I'm not using them. So quick overview, essentially Whitin's great shoe. I love them. They're super comfortable, great for weightlifting, great for like walking, things like that. I personally did not like it for running just because my foot slid too much and it was a little bit too loose. However, for those of you that are just getting into minimalist shoes or have never worn a pair like this, the sole does provide significant protection where you might find you like these a little bit more compared to these alternatives. However, for me, being somebody that's used minimalist shoes before, they just were too thick and I didn't find them comfortable for running. So that's the Whitins. If you look on the website, they come in this like black and gold version. There's a similar design where this is all black across the top, and then they've got a navy blue version with like a little bit of other blue, and I think there's a black with like a green version, but just look on the website. I highly recommend them. There's nothing wrong with them. I just personally don't like them for running as much as the Orangineers and the black and gold. So that's the Whitins. So the Orangineers, you've got two separate pairs here. I purchased these just looking at the different design and colors when I first got them. These are the black and gold Orangineers. There's multiple models on their website, so you have to look at it closely. But this is my go-to running shoe. It has been for the past year. I use it all the time. I absolutely love this thing. I think it's the most comfortable thing, and I am going to buy another pair of these no matter what once I wear through these. They just haven't worn to the point of needing to purchase another pair, so I haven't spent any money on them, but I love them. Quick overview, essentially it's a lace design on the top. It has laces which work really well. They do slip a little bit. I'll discuss that further in further detail. On the sides here you have it's like a vinyl insert that goes to each of the lace holes, so when you tighten these up it kind of contours to your foot really well and provides support and tightens this area here where it hugs the arch of your foot very comfortably, which is a nice aspect of this shoe. And then on the top here, rather than being cloth like in the Whitins, it's got this like neoprene material that is elastic, where it's got like a sponginess. I don't know, I kind of describe it as like similar to an old school like water shoe. However, the nice part about this is when you run with these, you get a nice like feedback where the elasticity brings your foot back up. So this thing hugs my foot really well, and I find it super comfortable. Additionally, on the front here, each of the toes are covered with this like one piece of rubber that provides adequate protection. I've never hit my toe like I did in the Vibram 5 fingers with these, so they're super comfortable, protect your toes, you don't have any damage, and the sole's thick enough where it's very responsive and you have enough groundedness. However, it's not too thick like the Whitins, where you don't get that responsiveness you need for running. And so I love these for running. They're my go-to shoe. I run 2 to 4 miles with these, and I run anywhere from like 4 to 5 times a week, and I use them all the time. I did not use them in the winter where I live because we get like 5 to 6 inches of snow at time, and it's super icy. So my concern is if these got very wet in the cold, they're not going to be comfortable, and my foot's going to get too cold when it's like 5 degrees out. So I didn't use it winter, but I use it all summer and springtime. As far as the bottom so far, if you look at both of the shoes, similar to like every other shoe I have, the heel here is starting to wear out a little bit on both sides. The bottom, like the sole here, is wearing out. However, on the shoe here, it's got these areas here that are a little bit thicker, and so the bottom sole has started wearing those areas, but it's held up very well. If you look back at my original video, on the bottom here, there was an area where the sole was separating. It's expanded a little bit back a little bit, but for a year of use, this has not worn out. Like, I expected this to break apart within like a couple months. However, so far it's had no issues there, and it's held up and it hasn't expanded. So these shoes are my go-to running shoe all the time, and I love them a lot. The only drawback I'll have with these is that this shoelace, it's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. One, it's round and it's kind of like plasticky, but sometimes for some reason when I run with these, they just become undone repeatedly. I'll tie them tight, and literally I'll tighten it up, and then like 5 minutes later it'll come apart or come undone, which is really super annoying. Somebody previously commented on my other video that I could just swap these out for other laces, which I never actually did until now, but I went to Walmart earlier and just picked up new athletic laces. So at the end of the video, I'm going to swap these out just to see if they're the same comfort without these shoelaces. But that's the one drawback I have to these, is the shoelaces for some reason are just cheap and they don't work well. As far as on the website, they've got, I think they've got multiple colors. They've got this black and gold version. They've got a identical version where it's green on the side. They have I think an all black version. They have this similar design where it's orange and black, and then they have a separate pair, I think, that is gray and red here. So you've got plenty of color options. I will comment that I did actually have one of my colleagues at work, she was going didn't have hiking shoes, and I actually recommended this pair of shoes in the female version, where they've got like this similar design, but they've got this like elastic band across the top here. She ended up actually getting those, took them out of the box, and went on an 18-mile hike the next day. Said that she had no issues as far as discomfort or anything as far as them breaking in. So these really work well for hiking as well. So they're great. I highly recommend them. So that's those shoes. The Whitins really work well for hiking as well, if you've ever done that. I've used them in the past here and there, but not as much. And then lastly, what we're going to do is talk about this pair, which is the Orangineers, and this orange and black version. When you look on the website, they look similar in design, and I expected them to function the same. However, I hate these shoes. They're terrible. I don't use them. The only reason why I'm using them right now is because the Whitins wore out, and I'm using these to walk my dog just because I have them around and they're sitting around, and I want to wear through them so I can get another pair of Whitins. But these shoes essentially, similar to the Whitins, they have this elastic strap with Velcro on the top. You can put it here and the Velcro will sit. It's got a drawstring here. The issue though is this elastic strand is very, very elastic. It's like a very spongy or bungee material. And so what I found, kind of thinking about this shoe, is that when you pull this up, it essentially compresses your arch and compresses the top of your foot and doesn't bring the sides up as well as like this shoe does, where it's just not comfortable. It feels like it's essentially squeezing the sole, like the top of your foot here, and it's not comfortable. So that's one drawback to this. Compared to this one, it doesn't have the vinyl here, and that might be why. It's got these strips here, but it's not the same as far as bringing up the shoe. So when you tighten it, it's not the same there. It's kind of loose, and that might be an issue with this, is just the material here is too thin where it just tightens up your foot too much. Additionally, compared to the neoprene version, this is like a cloth on the top, and so you don't get that sponginess, like, or not sponginess, that like elastic feedback or springiness compared to the golden black version. So that's that. And then for some reason the sole here is, even though it's the exact same design, if you look side by side, exact same design, exact layout, they've got the same things here. For some reason, it's just like a stiffer material. Like it just, I'll put them on, but like it's side by side, but like they just, it doesn't have the same responsiveness. Like this one, you can tell it's like broken in, it's very flexible, and versus this one, it's like super stiff. And I've worn this for walking. Like I've walked at least like 50 to 60 miles in this. I walk my dog like 2 to 3 miles a day in these, and like it, broken in here, but it's just like the back behind this part just doesn't move. It just doesn't, like the contour here where the arch support is, it just isn't as flexible. So it just feels like you're like slapping your foot to the ground compared to these ones. So that's that shoe. I don't recommend it at all. I hate these shoes. I'm just using them to walk my dog, and that's it. The only caveat is I'm going to swap these laces out because, for instance, this shoe here, a little while back, if you look, it's like the elastic broke here, so I tied it off and tightened it so that I could slide my foot in. However, it broke, and so I'm going to swap these out for regular laces and see that maybe it's just the fact that this is an elastic band compared to laces, and I'm hoping that maybe I can salvage this as a running shoe and it'll work. However, for some reason, it's just not the same as these shoes, so I don't really see the incentive or reason to buy these over this. It's just, on the website, go for these. Don't buy these. Don't make the mistake of buying them. And real quick, what I'll do is now is I'm going to essentially, I'm going to swap out the laces on these. We'll throw these on side by side so you can see a comparison directly for the little nuances to why I like these more than these. But the rest of the video will kind of like discuss that real quick, and then we'll finish up. Okay, so here are the black and gold Orangineers. I swapped out the laces. I just got like cheap athletic laces from Walmart for about like, I think it was like $1 or so. These are 36-inch laces. There's no issues. They feel essentially the same. This is what they look like on the front and then the side. As you can tell, they're very, very flexible. Like I can move my entire foot really well, and it's super flexible. There's like, they feel great on your feet. So that's those. What we'll do now is we'll throw on the other Oranginer ones just to show you real quick, and then I'll show you side by side what they look like. Okay, so here's the Orangineers in the orange and black. I swapped out the laces, got rid of the elastic band. I will say that the top here definitely feels more comfortable with traditional laces compared to elastic. However, there is a bunch of bunchiness here, which is probably why this just doesn't respond the same, but this is what they look like as far as movement and things like that. I'll try them out for running. I don't know how well they'll work compared to the other pair, but I feel like the top material here is just too loose, where it's just not the same, and I probably wouldn't pick them. But maybe with laces, they might be a little bit better compared to the elastic band itself. Real quick, I'll show you side by side with the gold and black, just so you get a side by side comparison. Okay, so here's the side by side comparison between the two separate Oranginer shoes. As you can tell, when I move, there's a little bit of bunching of material, or the cloth design here bunches in the front compared to the neoprene here. Just works better. It just hugs your foot a little bit better, versus this is just kind of looser and there's just more material, and that's probably why I don't like it as much. This is what it looks like on the side as far as the black one compared to like the orange one, and then this is kind of what it looks like from the back. So those are the two Orangineers. Real quick, I'll put on the Whitins just to show you, and then we'll finish up. And lastly, we have the Whitin shoes, which are these ones right here. So as you can tell, with the cloth top, it's a little bit looser when you're moving your foot. And then for running, the reason why I don't like these as much is as you slide your foot, there's a little bit of give in it, so your foot slides a little bit. So if you can tell, when I step forwards, I end up with like a little bit of extra material here, and so that give or take within the shoe just makes it less comfortable for running. But in general, I love them for weight training, that sort of thing. They're a great shoe. It's just not as good compared to the Oranginer black and gold ones for running. And so that's everything we have for these shoes. If you have questions, comments, or anything like that, please post them below. And if you're interested in purchasing them, I'll put a link below in the description. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and thanks for watching, and please subscribe.